Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion. We're tackling a topic that sits at the intersection of public infrastructure, social norms, and civil rights. Should public restrooms eliminate gender-specific designations? This question sparks considerable debate, touching upon deeply held beliefs about privacy, safety, and inclusivity in our shared spaces. Joining us to explore this complex issue are Alex Rivera, a passionate advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and proponent of gender-neutral facilities, and Dr. Evelyn Reed, a sociologist specializing in social interaction and public spaces, who will present perspectives on potential challenges. We'll begin with opening statements from each speaker, followed by rebuttals, a moderated discussion, and concluding remarks. We aim for a thoughtful and respectful exchange of ideas today.
Thank you, Sarah. When we talk about eliminating gender-specific designations, we're advocating for public restrooms accessible to people of any gender or no gender. It's about creating spaces that reflect the reality of human diversity. The core principle here is inclusivity and fundamental human dignity. For transgender and non-binary individuals, navigating gender-segregated restrooms can range from deeply uncomfortable to genuinely dangerous. They face potential harassment, questioning, and even violence simply for needing to use a facility that aligns with their identity, or one where they feel safest, which might not match societal expectations based on their appearance. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a barrier to public participation. Furthermore, the argument that gendered restrooms inherently guarantee safety is flawed. Safety concerns often stem from behavior, not identity. Ironically, forcing individuals into restrooms that don't align with their gender identity can actually increase their vulnerability. Gender-neutral restrooms, designed with privacy in mind through fully enclosed stalls, can offer a safer option for many, including parents with children of a different gender, or people with disabilities requiring an assistant of a different gender. We need to question why we rigidly segregate this particular public space when most others, libraries, buses, cafes, are integrated. The current system is based on outdated norms that don't serve everyone effectively or equitably. This isn't just about bathrooms. It's about recognizing the rights of all individuals to exist safely and comfortably in public life. It's a necessary step towards a more just and progressive society where infrastructure serves everyone, not just a perceived majority based on binary gender assumptions.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Alex, for outlining the importance of inclusivity. It's a goal I believe we all share. However, transitioning away from gender-specific restrooms requires careful consideration of several significant factors. Firstly, we must acknowledge the deeply ingrained expectation of bodily privacy that gender-segregated spaces currently provide for many, particularly women. This isn't necessarily about prejudice, but about comfort levels shaped by lifelong social conditioning and experiences within sex-segregated environments for intimate bodily functions. Ignoring this widely held preference risks alienating a large portion of the population. Secondly, while the intention is not to validate prejudice, we cannot dismiss the perceived safety concerns that many women express. In a society where gender-based violence remains a serious issue, the presence of males in previously female-only spaces raises anxieties for some, regardless of statistical evidence regarding restroom incidents specifically. These feelings, even if based on broader societal fears rather than the specific space, impact women's comfort and willingness to use facilities. Thirdly, we need to consider societal adjustment and tradition. Gendered spaces, for better or worse, are a long-standing feature of our public infrastructure. Rapidly dismantling them without broad public consensus could lead to social friction and backlash, potentially hindering rather than helping the cause of inclusion in the long run. Finally, there are significant practical and logistical challenges. Converting millions of existing restrooms involves considerable expense and architectural modification. We must ask if resources might be better allocated, perhaps towards ensuring the widespread availability of well-maintained, single-stall, fully accessible, gender-neutral restrooms, often called family restrooms. These can serve transgender and non-binary individuals, families, and those needing privacy, without fundamentally altering all existing multi-stall facilities immediately. A balanced approach seems prudent.
Dr. Reed raises important points about comfort and perception, but I believe we need to scrutinize the basis of these concerns. Regarding safety, the fear often vocalized is largely speculative. There is a lack of substantial empirical evidence linking gender-neutral multi-stall restrooms to an increase in safety incidents or sexual assaults. Numerous jurisdictions and institutions have implemented them without such reported outcomes. Often these fears are amplified by transphobic rhetoric, not supported by data. We must be careful not to legislate based on prejudice disguised as safety concerns. On the issue of privacy, privacy is fundamentally provided by architectural features, floor-to-ceiling stalls with secure locks, not by the gender sign on the door. Many existing unisex facilities, like those on airplanes or trains, or single-stall accessible restrooms, demonstrate that people can manage their privacy needs in non-gender segregated environments. While acknowledging comfort levels, we must also weigh the real harm and discrimination faced daily by transgender and non-binary people under the current system. Their exclusion and anxiety are not just feelings. They are tangible barriers. Prioritizing the hypothetical discomfort of some over the documented vulnerability of others seems ethically questionable. Regarding implementation, yes, there are costs, but civil rights advancements often require investment. We could implement changes progressively, focusing on new constructions and major renovations first, while also increasing single-stall options. But relying solely on single stalls can still reinforce a sense of otherness for trans and non-binary individuals, suggesting they need, quote, special facilities rather than being included in the main ones.
Alex, while I agree that empirical data on increased assaults in gender-neutral restrooms is currently lacking, the significance of perceived safety and psychological comfort shouldn't be underestimated as a social factor. Public acceptance is crucial for the successful integration of any significant social change. If a large segment of the population, particularly women who disproportionately experience gender-based violence in society, feel unsafe or deeply uncomfortable, it impacts their use of public spaces and can lead to resistance against the policy, regardless of statistical safety. Comparing multi-stall public restrooms to private homes, single-occupancy airplane lavatories, or even designated accessible stalls isn't entirely equivalent. Multi-stall public restrooms have unique social dynamics and anonymity factors that can heighten feelings of vulnerability for some. We must respect that different people have different comfort levels and privacy expectations, shaped by diverse life experiences. Forcing a one-size-fits-all solution might disregard these valid, albeit subjective, feelings. This is why I lean towards advocating strongly for a significant expansion of high-quality, clearly marked, single-stall, gender-neutral, and family restrooms. This approach directly addresses the accessibility needs of transgender and non-binary individuals, parents with children, and people with disabilities and their caregivers, while also offering an option for anyone desiring greater privacy. It could potentially serve as a widely acceptable compromise that acknowledges both the drive for inclusivity and existing societal comfort patterns. It allows for choice and addresses multiple needs simultaneously.
Thank you both for those detailed responses. Alex, Dr. Reed highlights the issue of perceived safety and genuine anxiety, even if statistically unfounded. How can advocates for gender-neutral restrooms effectively address these deeply felt anxieties among some members of the public, particularly cisgender women, to build broader support and understanding without dismissing their feelings?
That's a critical question, Sarah. Firstly, education and visibility are key. Sharing accurate information, debunking myths, and amplifying the voices and experiences of transgender and non-binary people helps humanize the issue beyond abstract debate, highlighting that transgender individuals, particularly trans women of color, are often disproportionately victims of violence, not perpetrators, is crucial. Secondly, focusing on design solutions can alleviate concerns, emphasizing that well-designed, gender-neutral facilities prioritize everyone's privacy with features like fully enclosed, floor-to-ceiling stalls, and communal hand-washing areas can build confidence. Thirdly, dialogue is essential. Creating spaces for respectful conversation where concerns can be aired and addressed directly, separating legitimate concerns about privacy design from transphobic prejudice. Finally, pointing to successful implementations elsewhere can demonstrate that these fears often don't materialize in practice. It's about building trust and showing that inclusivity doesn't have to come at the expense of safety or privacy for anyone when done thoughtfully.
Thank you, Alex. Dr. Reed, you've suggested enhancing single stall options as a potentially more acceptable compromise. However, Alex raised the point that this might still signal, quote, otherness. From a sociological perspective, if we primarily rely on separate single stall facilities for inclusivity, does that adequately address the core issue of normalizing the presence of transgender and non-binary people in everyday public life? Or does it risk reinforcing segregation, albeit a different form?
That's a valid sociological consideration, Sarah. Relying solely on single-stall options could indeed be interpreted as insufficient for full normalization and integration. It might inadvertently perpetuate the idea that trans and non-binary individuals require separate accommodation, rather than being fully included within mainstream facilities. However, I see it more as a pragmatic intermediate step or a parallel solution, rather than an exclusive one. Increasing single-stall availability offers immediate, tangible benefits for access and privacy for a wide range of people, including but not limited to the trans community. It can act as a bridge, building societal familiarity and comfort with gender-diverse usage of facilities. Perhaps the ideal long-term solution involves both: converting multi-stall restrooms where feasible, especially in new constructions, and ensuring ample single-stall options exist everywhere. This dual approach could cater to diverse needs: immediate access, enhanced privacy for anyone who desires it, and gradual normalization within shared spaces, mitigating some of the abrupt social friction a complete, immediate overhaul might cause.
To conclude, the call for gender-neutral restrooms is fundamentally about equality and recognizing the right of everyone to navigate public spaces with dignity and safety. Segregated facilities inherently exclude and marginalize transgender and non-binary people, creating unnecessary barriers and anxieties. Concerns about privacy and safety can be effectively addressed through thoughtful design, focusing on secure stalls for all users. We have successfully integrated most other public spaces. It's time our restroom infrastructure evolved to reflect our society's diversity and commitment to civil rights. Moving towards gender-neutral facilities is not just practical. It's a moral imperative to build a truly inclusive society where everyone belongs and feels safe. Let's embrace progress and adapt our shared environments accordingly.
In closing, while the objective of inclusivity for transgender and non-binary individuals is undeniably important, the path we take requires careful deliberation. We must acknowledge the legitimate concerns regarding privacy and perceived safety held by segments of the population, particularly women, which are rooted in broader societal contexts. Dismissing these concerns risks undermining public support. Practical implementation challenges and costs also need realistic assessment. A balanced approach, possibly prioritizing the rapid expansion of high-quality, single-stall, gender-neutral facilities, alongside gradual changes to multi-stall restrooms, perhaps starting with new builds, might offer a more viable way forward. It allows us to enhance inclusivity significantly while respecting diverse comfort levels and addressing practical constraints. Prudence and sensitivity to all perspectives are essential as we navigate this complex social transition.
Thank you, Alex Rivera and Dr. Evelyn Reed, for sharing your valuable perspectives and contributing to a nuanced and respectful discussion on this challenging topic. It's clear that finding solutions requires balancing inclusivity, safety, privacy, and societal readiness. Thank you to our audience for joining